Hey guys, Hippopotamus here, and today I'll be just showing you my tipping scales PvP build. Just want to add a couple of things before we start here. One of which is that tipping scales recently in the Dark Zone is getting used quite a lot, and it's actually turning out to be actually a really good build. I will go through some of its uses later in the video. The other thing is that I might be a little bit late to the party with this. I have seen a few people put them on YouTube, but this is just how I use my tipping scales build for PvP. So hopefully that is useful for you. And lastly is that there will be no gameplay in this video. This is just the theory and the components behind the build. If you want gameplay, I'm quite happy to do a stream to show off its potential. The main thing is that I don't want to spend 6, 7, 8 hours editing a video just to get a few views. The reason for this video is just to show somebody that doesn't know how to make one of these builds, or somebody that just wants some ideas for making their own. All right, with that covered, let's get into the video. So, to start off with, we have our specialization table, and we are using the gunner. There is two main points for using the gunner, and I'll go through those first. The first one is the large pouch, which gives us 50 extra bullets to any LMG, and that, with the bonus that we're using on the GR9 with Frenzy, is very good. It's very powerful and helps us a lot. And the other one is the supply line talent, because inherently this build, it just runs out of ammo so quickly. Any extra ammo that we can get passively back is just amazing. So this really helps quite a lot. The other main things that are sort of important here is just synergizing weapon damage talents within the weapon tree. We have an assault rifle and we have an LMG, so we have those two bases covered. I'll work my way around here and show you what else is good. Emplacement is also quite nice because we get weapon handling from tipping scales. So standing still for 1 second as we're building stacks is quite easy to get. And I'll show you a little trick down in the range that will allow you to take advantage of emplacement as well. This is part of it, so that's helpful. We have barrage, and if we get a kill with Frenzy, which is very likely, if anybody walks in front of you when you're using Frenzy, you'll get the kill within a second, and that 5% extra fire rate on top of Frenzy can lead to some crazy numbers. So that is sort of situational, but also quite good when you do get it. Another situational talent is Incessant, is the armor on kill. You're not always going to see benefit from that, but it could be in certain situations useful if you were in a landmark and you were fighting with ads, or if you were peeking out and you managed to get a couple of kills, you got 20% of your armor back, it might allow you just to hop back into cover and take a kit, if that was the case. So it can be useful, but it's situational. Another really good talent is Coupler, and you're going to see a lot of use from this because we are going to be shooting lots of bullets off and reloading quite a lot of the time. So every third reload being 50% faster is less downtime and is excellent. And if we do hit that 50% reload speed on the chance that we are using Frenzy and the magazine is empty on our GR9, it's 50% faster that we're going to get to that bonus. So in some senses that is actually very good, but when we're building stacks, this is extremely important. The other really good talent is the hardened armor kits, giving us 30% bonus armor for 10 seconds. If we do maybe take a kit and then peek back out for a peek, having that 30% bonus armor is quite nice. It's going to give us a little bit of extra tankiness. Okay, with all that covered, that's everything from the skill tree that's going to help us. Let's go take a look at the build. So with this being quite a gun-centric build, the most important thing here is our primary weapon, and this is pretty much what makes the build for me. I am using the GR9, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is the fire rate, and two is the magazine size. So based on magazine size, we have two candidates, and that is the Stoner LMG and the GR9. The Stoner LMG is no good because its in-baked attachment has stability, and we want crit. And its fire rate is much slower. We have a higher fire rate with the GR9, so the GR9 is actually the most ideal and perfect weapon that we can use for this build. So mine comes with 20 ranks of expertise, and it has 15% LMG damage, damage to targets out of cover, and damage to armor. We also see that the talent is Frenzy, and for every 10 bullets in the magazine capacity, we gain 3% fire rate and 3% weapon damage for 9 seconds once we reload from an empty magazine, so 0 bullets. We also see that the mods, we have that inbuilt optic, which gives us 5% crit chance. That's what we want. We don't want stability. We have the 50% extra, 50 extra rounds from the large pouch, and a crit chance mod and crit chance on the muzzle and underbarrel. So we're taking crit chance everywhere, and this allows us to get at that higher crit. So for my secondary, I'm not going to go through this too much. All I'm going to do is talk about what you can do rather than what I've taken. So my idea was that if I got a headshot kill, I'd be able to step out into gunfire and just put a lot of damage out with the stacks. I've not yet seen that work for me, and I may change this in the future. All I'll say is, for your second weapon, do not use an LMG, because sharing that ammo pool, you're going to run out of bullets really quick. It's just going to happen. So you might want to take the Eagle Bearer, you could take the Capacitor, St. Elmo's, anything else you wanted. Just don't take another LMG, because you will suffer. I think an assault rifle is probably going to be your second best option. So, something along those lines would be best. The quick step pistol, really just two things to say here. One, in PvP, you need this. It's a must, because getting around chasing manhunts or bin manhunt yourself, that movement speed buff is massive. Also, when you've stood and built stacks and then you need to move, which means you're not shooting, it means that you can get to where you're going quicker and maybe hold on to a few extra stacks. So that is important. And the other thing is just make sure it doesn't matter how yours is rolled. It doesn't matter what you've got on your pistol. The only thing that matters is that you have the extended pistol magazine for those 11 extra rounds, because this is the way that we build stacks without needing to waste ammunition. And I'll show you more about that in the range once we get there. So we have our brand set pieces and our gear set pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the gear set pieces first, and then I will go to the brand set, and then I'll discuss the skills. So for my first piece, I've got a contractor's glove. This comes rolled with armor damage and has damage to armor and crit hit damage. Obviously, the brand set bonus is 10% LMG damage, which we are using an LMG, so that's very useful. And the armor damage is obviously, again, very useful for taking enemy agents' armor off them. For my holster, I am using a Cheska, and this gives us 8% crit chance. It's rolled with weapon damage, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage. And the Cheska is useful because we are trying to get as much crit as we possibly can to supplement that crit damage that we gain from the tipping scales pieces. So onto my tipping scales pieces. I'll go through that now. What I'll do is I'll summarize tipping scales very quickly. So 2 pieces gives us magazine size, i.e. more bullets in the magazine. 3 pieces gives us LMG damage at 30%, and 4 pieces gives us throttle control. So what this does is shooting, your gun builds up stacks up to a max of 50, and each stack that you get gives you 0.5% weapon handling and 4% crit hit damage. So we're going to gain those from just holding down the trigger and shooting. If we don't, we're going to lose 6 stacks per second while not shooting, and the no enemy stacks are lost if an enemy is not suppressed. Well, the suppression effect is in PvE, so that probably won't be viable for the most part if you're fighting enemy agents, unless you maybe at a landmark and you turn around and suppress an ad, which is going to be a very situational sort of thing happening. So I don't think we're going to see much value out of that. Just be aware that you will lose stacks. So with that in mind, I'm just going to talk about the pieces. For each one, I have a core attribute of armor, and then I've got crit chance, and with a crit damage mod placed into the in-slot of this one. For my knee pad, it's set up exactly the same. It is just armor, but I've taken crit damage here. On the backpack, I have armor, crit hit chance, and crit damage placed into the in-slot mod. I would say this is a very important talent for any build to use. The snowball increases the critical hit damage per stack from 4 to 7. That's quite a lot. That's a big damage increase. So the backpack for me is an absolute must. Where other people will say maybe I don't agree with that or I might want to change it is the chest piece. Now the chest piece, this is rolled with armor, crit hit chance, and an in-slot mod of crit hit damage. Now where people say that this isn't necessary is that you go from 50 to 75 stacks. Now you could change this and have unbreakable on your chest. giving you some more survivability or whatever. I just feel like stacks decay very, very quickly, and the more potential for the more stacks that you have, the easier it is to be able to move from point A to point B and still have some stacks left over once you get to point B. I'll show more about that in the range in a second, but that is why I have chosen the chest piece, and I believe this actually works better for the way that I play, and it works well for me. Okay, so for my skills, I have the Reviver Hive, because I am literally going to be standing out of cover, just non-stop shooting. So I do have some tankiness, but if I get knocked over, I've got a chance to get back up. And again, I'm not going to be like playing a front line with this build. This is going to be like mid to back group. I'm going to be like suppression fire or an anti-push. So what I mean by an anti-push is that if an enemy group of agents try and push you, the amount of suppression that I can put down will deter anybody from pushing up. It can wipe an entire group pushing up on you. So having the Reviver Hive, when mistakes do happen, it just stops somebody else having to pick me up. And it's not going to work all the time. So you can change this if you please, but I just find that this gives me an extra safety net that I would have where if I had Unbreakable, I wouldn't need this. So that's why I've chosen that. The other thing that I've chosen is the Defender drone, and that is just a sheer damage reduction, which is just going to give me PvP damage reduction of 13%. So it's going to help me, take less damage. I am having to stand out and just stand peeking at an angle. So any damage reduction I can get is going to help me quite a lot. Okay, so obviously I've got the Riot Foam grenades. They are quite nasty if you can stick an enemy down, but the chances of that happening and falling like that is sort of very situational, slim to rare. So they are there, they are useful, but getting one off without somebody jumping out of the radius in time is, yeah, it's not going to happen a lot, but it's there. Okay, so with all that covered, what I'm going to do is, I did say in the last video I was going to turn this off so we don't see inaccurate stats. I was also going to just go down to the range here. It's on heroic, which is fine. And now we can look at the stat sheet. If I just turn skill haste off, we'll go in and out just to make sure that we've got the right numbers. And now this should be set up so you see all the correct stats. So with my weapons, I have 57% crit chance on both. And I'm already into the hundreds, 117 of crit hit damage, which is going to go much higher. 14% armor damage as well, which is quite useful. So this is good. My weapon damage is going to be increased massively from having a lot of crit, and also from having the weapon damage bonus from Frenzy is going to increase. So we do have some weapon damage, but to start off at a baseline, because we've taken armor cores, so we can stand and just peek an angle, we're not going to be hitting the hardest to start with, but once we get to the end of the stacks, we're going to be hitting extremely hard. So the gear talents are Snowball and Sustainability. We've discussed these, and the gear set and brand sets are as follows. So we have 4 pieces of tipping scales, 1 piece of Petrov, namely the Contractor's Glove, and 1 pieces of Cheska. So for our defense, we are at 1.66 million, roughly about 1.7 million, and we have about 160,000 armor on kill, kind of negligible really. We also see that we just have the 10% from the watch, so if you're not watch level 1000, your numbers may vary here. For our skills, we have the Reviver Hive, and we also have the Defender drone, all important stuff. So, how to use the build? So there's a couple of ways to do things. So the main way is that you'll see when I pulled this build out, you see how I only have 250 rounds in the magazine? When you first equip the build, you can switch away from it and then switch to another build, and you'll only have 250 rounds in the magazine, okay? Or whatever you've got at that point. This is much easier to shoot than the potentially, 300 and maybe 25 bullets that you've got in the magazine if you'd reloaded. So it's always better to start with a lower magazine, and we can do that just by switching the build, and you'll see that we're at 250. What I would like to mention is that we don't just need to stand and shoot our gun to build stacks, but what I'm going to do is, you can see that if we stand and just shoot, we're building stacks. And what we can do is we try and get down to, say, the last maybe 10, 15 bullets in the magazine, And what we can do is, if an enemy tries to push us, we can just shoot those bullets off, reload, and Frenzy is giving us an extremely large damage bonus. So once Frenzy is active, but what I wanted to talk about was mainly is how to get these stacks without wasting your ammo, because you can see we are literally just, tipping ammunition away. So we can use our secondary weapon, the Eagle Bearer. The idea was that if I got a headshot, I'd become immune, and then all of a sudden I could turn those stacks on other people. You can use what you want there. But the way that I do this is when I'm playing PvP, is I will sit at the back of the group, if I'm in a group, and I'll just sit with my pistol. And as you can see, the pistol has unlimited ammunition. So all you have to do is just sit and shoot with your pistol, and you'll build up stacks slowly. Now, what I was talking about before, about having 75 stacks instead of 50 stacks will decay much faster than 75. That's just common sense. That's more stacks, less time, it takes more time to decay. So if we need to move from a position, as you can see, we can only walk and shoot a little bit. If we need to run, we can't run and shoot at the same time. It's just not possible. We can only walk. So what we can do is build up our stacks with the pistol, move to wherever we're going, and now take these stacks with us. So that's the top and tail of it. Don't forget about the blocker drone as well. If we're holding a peak and we're on a peak here, we can use the scope and we can just shoot from the peak and get our damage. And we can also have a reviver hive. Should something go wrong, we can get ourselves up. And should we be able to get the riot foam grenade off, that's going to be extremely nasty, because now all of a sudden they just can't move. Alright guys, I hope that covered everything pretty quickly, and I will see you in the next one. I've got one more interesting build to bring to you soon, but I think I'll do that in the next couple of days. I will see you very soon.